Welcome back, listeners.
To Arts and Crimes.
Oh, yeah. Should I keep going?
Yeah, keep doing it.
Brandon is so done. He's like, let's just get this podcast.
I want to go.
Welcome back, listeners. It's Arts and Crafts. Kelly, go.
Go. Cut out all the frivolous stuff. Just tell me who we're talking about, what the crime was, what the art was. Get done with it. You're going to do it?
I don't know. Okay.
Take the reins.
Okay. Dun, 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 dun.
You don't have to do the music part.
She can add that later.
Yeah, I'll add that later.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Arts and Crimes. I'm your host, Kelly Boyles. And that's not true. Let's see.
You bamboozled them.
I'm Kelly.
Oh, there she is. All right. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Josh.
Here we all are.
You
It's
can
true.
tell us apart by using our voices.
Well, we're back. We're here. Today we're doing a twofer where we're doing two shorter ones together.
So this is kind of like a two-parter, but 100% the exact opposite.
Yeah, you've nailed it. It's a half-parter.
Why would I explain something like that? Like, can you imagine someone being like, what's an elephant? And they're like, well, it's not like a dolphin in basically every way.
Oh, I can envision it perfectly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, two half-parters to create a whole part. So to celebrate St.
Given
Patrick's...
our ability to get sidetracked, this will be 2 episodes.
It very well could be. Because St. Patrick's Day is coming up and I like to do mildly themed things, I thought it would be fun to learn about St. Patrick. Because I feel like there's a lot we don't know about him. And I was talking to Ash, and we were talking about how the colors originally for St. Patrick's Day was not green.
What was it?
I'm going to tell you.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm so excited.
We're going to get into it.
And
That's the art.
That's the art part. I mean, it's heavily leans into that.
Okay, hey. I got something to tell you about colors. We went to IKEA today, and they had this very vibrant green pillow.
Uh-huh.
And Mikhail's like, ooh, I want this. I was like, it's got arsenic in it. We can't buy it.
Can't get it.
Anyway, sorry. Back on task.
Back on task.
But
Oh, yeah,
I do think there's a market for paint
Things that will
could
kill
kill
you.
you but looks beautiful that some rich person would be like, I put it in my game room.
Yeah,
Don't lick the walls.
probably. All right. Well, I mean, at least we got through one of the subjects we're
Oh
talking
my
about.
gosh.
Well,
I
did we
apologize.
get through it? Just the introduction, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've introduced the fact that
We're talking
color is one of the
We'll
things we're
play
going to talk
heavily.
about today.
Yeah.
All right.
All the nerves in my mouth must be
When
bad.
we get to it, there's a whole thing about
Boning?
cups.
Cups.
Yeah.
Cups?
Cups.
Cupping.
Not
Isn't that
cupping.
a thing?
Yeah.
I think it is. I don't know what it
What does
is.
that mean?
Is it a? It's a
was a verb.
massage
They
kind of
used to do a
thing.
medical procedure.
Yeah.
They like.
But there's a current one where you use like big old suction cups. Athletes do it. So anytime you see an athlete
With like big
with
round.
like a 2-inch round hickey on them, they've been cupping.
Yeah, it's not actually romantic.
No. Unless someone has a
Romantically
perfectly
cupping.
a perfectly
2-inch
round mouth. I like it because she looks like a lamprey. Wait, what's those fish that clean the sides of
What?
proboscis?
What is that?
Coloscomies.
Oh.
Plecostomus.
Plecostomus.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's got a face just like a plecostomus. That's what I look for in a
Is a
woman.
lamprey wrong though?
Lamprey is the scary ucky fish that like snuck into the Great Lakes. They like latch on to another fish and just like eat into the side of it with their super gross teeth. Yeah, but
This
they
is
do have
why
like a
The
flat.
ocean is the most terrifying thing to
Oh
me.
yes,
Ugh.
but they do have this weird like flat round,
Mouth.
almost like off to the side a little, whatever.
Really?
I think so.
So you weren't wrong.
I mean, I don't think I'm making up.
I kind of imagined, you know, the things that suction themselves to the Millennium Falcon when they were inside that worm that wasn't a
an asteroid worm.
An asteroid, yeah.
Yes, I remember. I know what you mean. They're like the lampreys of the space.
Yes.
Wasn't that such a weird scene?
Like the whole reason. For,
Yeah,
like,
I was just
why-
like, let's pull into this thing. And we got some jerk bug things on the outside. Oh, it's not a rock. And then
It's
they're
a
out.
worm.
And then just like, We're never going to touch this again.
My favorite thing is that he just steps out of it in the vacuum of space. They don't know they're in a worm. And so he's just like, we're in this cave in space. It's probably got oxygen.
It's an asteroid. It's definitely got an atmosphere.
Yeah.
An astrosphere.
Oh, Han Solo.
All right.
The hubris.
He's a cowboy of...
Do they have spacesuits in Star Wars?
I mean, there's
the
stormtroopers.
like the stormtrooper stuff.
But
like
any kind
armor.
of like what we would consider a spacesuit.
For extra vehicular travel?
Yeah. Like they're in space all the freaking time. And nobody is like, we might want to make sure we got air.
I think...
It's not a concern.
Yeah. It feels like...
That's not
some
the story
movies
they
take
were
some
telling.
big liberties with space.
Yeah.
Like Guardians of the Galaxy. Also. Very...
Liberal.
Vacuum is sort of, it's a
It's
suggestion
fine.
on how space works. Anyway, number 2.
So number 1, St. Patrick's and the color and stuff related there and all of the stuff that happened to him. St. Patrick, excuse me. And then the second guy is also ancient, though I think St. Patrick is... No, I think they're about the same time, actually.
Is it another saint?
No, it's not. It's quite the opposite, actually. It's
Devil.
Hold on. We're describing things according to the opposites. So let's see if we can figure it out. What's the opposite of a saint? A devil.
Well, no. It wouldn't be a devil, right? Because devil would be the opposite of an angel. So what's a minion of the devil?
Is it Hitler? He did some crimes and he did some art. He's perfect. Why haven't we done a Hitler episode
There's
yet?
nothing St. Patrick-y about him, though.
You're right. Well, he's the opposite of St. Patrick.
Well...
Okay, hold on. Teach us about St. Patrick, and then
you'll
use
guess
what we learn to
do the
determine
second
who is
one.
the opposite of St. Patrick.
Well,
Okay.
it's somebody obviously in September, right? Because 6 months
Okay.
is...
Is it you?
No.
Oh.
I'm the opposite of a saint.
Well, you're also a lady.
That's
the
true.
opposite of Mr. Patrick.
That's true. Patrick. Okay, all right. We'll get through, and then if you can't get it, I'll
And
give
then
you more
it'll be a
hints.
fun game.
Yeah, you can
Are
make.
you tired of us yet?
No, not at all. I'm very excited. All right, so St. Patrick,
Mm-hmm.
he was a guy. So far, you're right on track.
What do he look like? We need to know what he looks like so we can look at the exact opposite.
Well, he was born in Great Britain, and he was born to wealthy parents.
Okay.
And
okay, teeth.
around the end of the 4th century, so way back in the day.
Yeah.
It is known that his father was a Catholic deacon, but it's said that there's not any real evidence that he came from a particularly religious family. They say actually it's most likely that Patrick began his role in the Catholic Church because of tax incentives, which,
Sure.
whatever gets you started.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah. So at age 16, we jump ahead to a super exciting moment where he gets taken prisoner by Irish raiders. No in between. That's just next thing we know about him is he was taken prisoner by Irish raiders. They were attacking his family estate, and they took him to Ireland and then sold him into slavery.
Oh, boy.
So he spent 6 years in captivity there.
In Ireland?
In Ireland, yeah.
In Ireland, they just had slaves of whoever.
Whomever. I mean, I think at this time, kind of taking people and selling them was pretty common practice. Because, spoiler alert, this also happens to the next guy we talk about.
I thought you said they were the
Exact opposite. He should be the slaver.
Yeah, he should be a slave owner.
He's the opposite in his, vocation.
Okay. He's a prostitute.
No.
Nailed it.
Oh, no. He's
You're just
not.
upset we got it so quickly.
I thought I had water here, and I don't.
But she didn't mind drinking water
I did, yeah.
to get the health benefits of it.
Yeah. Refreshing. Anyways, so he spent 6 years in captivity there in Ireland. And then during that time, he worked as a shepherd. And he was... Because he wrote, his own book. So some of it they took some of, because they have some of his writings, I guess. And in it, he wrote that he was alone and afraid. And so he turned to his religion for comfort. And this is... when it was really a turning point for him where he became truly devout. And so They also believe that this is when he really had the desire to bring Christianity to the Irish people. So, with his newfound dream of sharing Christianity with the Irish people, he escaped. And according to his writings, he heard a voice which he believed to be God, and it told him in a dream to leave Ireland. So he did. And then...
That's all. He just had to decide to leave Ireland, and that's
And
how he
left.
got out of slavery?
I know. I was like, that seems like not very good.
Man,
prison.
yeah. Well, when you said
They
he
left
was
him alone in the field with
when you
sheep.
said he was a shepherd, I was like, man, this is a pretty easy slave job. Just like, watch this flock all by yourself. Make
Okay.
sure you bring them back.
And don't go away.
Don't forget you're a slave.
We can't track you. Yeah, so God told him
He
that
gave them his palabra.
he's a man of honor. So God told him to leave, and so he did. And so he walked from County Mayo, it is believed that this is where he had been held, to the Irish coast. I didn't bother looking to see how far that is. I assume it was a ways. And then during this time, he was briefly captured again and then almost died from starvation. But he was able to escape, and then he got to Great Britain, whereupon he reported immediately having a second revelation where an angel came in a dream and told him to go back to Ireland. So he had to...
And become a slave again.
So he felt that he was woefully unprepared and undereducated to be a missionary. So he decided that he would do some schooling before he left. So for the next 15 years, he went to school and then became an ordained priest.
If an angel appeared to me in a dream and was like, go back to Ireland, I would probably not wait 15 years.
Expedite that a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think. But he said...
Maybe he just wasn't very motivated to go back to the place where he was a
He
slave.
literally just
That's
escaped
true.
from. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be, throwing stones.
Yeah. So, not until you're
I
captured.
love that he's talking to the angel, and the angel's like, you need to go back to Ireland. He's like, oh, I mean, I want to. Believe me, I would love to do that.
Tricked an angel.
Okay, that's not actually what he did. That's not canon. I don't know. I wasn't
Headcanon.
I was not privy to the conversation. So, after 15 years, he received a missive that he was supposed to go on a dual mission to Ireland, which was to minister to the Christians that were already there and then to convert people that weren't already Christian. Which I feel like that's sort of... I mean, you don't have to outline that. Isn't that what you do as a missionary? You're like, help the people that are already of your faith and then try and convert.
The church had only been around for 400 years. They were
Yeah.
still figuring stuff out.
Maybe
Pretty new.
it wasn't, understood yet. But,
That's true.
you've got a number of years on old Pat.
Well, I mean, at 15 years of studying.
It does seem like a dual mission. That did seem kind of like a weird wording for it, though.
Yeah. Just as a fun tidbit, this does contradict a widely held but apparently inaccurate notion that Patrick introduced Christianity. So, according to his own words, he didn't introduce it. It was already there.
Sure.
But he spread it. And he knew Irish culture from the time that he had been there. So he had an idea about teaching Christianity. He incorporated Christian beliefs into their already accepted pagan practices. I was reading this and I love it. I don't know if it was approved by the church, but I love it. So, for example, he used bonfires to celebrate Easter since they were already accustomed to you honoring their gods with fire. So it's fine.
Sure.
He also incorporated a sun into the design of the cross since that was a powerful Irish symbol. The sun was. And that kind of created what is now known as the Celtic cross. So sort of changed the cross, which I also think it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I mean, I'm on board so far.
Yeah.
Keep going, Patty.
And really, those are kind of the two.
Cannibalism.
They're already
That's why
used to
the
that.
sacrament is the flesh. It didn't used to be. It was just bread and water.
He changed
And then
it.
St. Patrick was like, let's call it the flesh and the blood.
I love it. That's really the two main ones that they said he did like major changes that were lasting. So his work in Ireland, he gave gifts to chieftains and important figures, but he always made sure to never accept gifts from them. I don't know why that was one specifically mentioned in multiple places, but it was.
Interesting.
And then
Like a pot of gold.
He wasn't a leprechaun. I'm sorry. Spoiler alert. He's not a leprechaun.
Is the other person you're going to talk about a leprechaun, though?
No, I don't.
How tall is St. Patrick?
He's regular height.
Regular height.
So we're looking for someone of irregular height.
Many in the church thought that he was out to gain, out for gain, but apparently anybody that actually knew him knew that wasn't true. He was really devout to serving, and one of the quotes that said about him is, "The moral and spiritual greatness of the man shines through every stumbling sentence of his rustic Latin."
So he wasn't...
He's a bumpkin.
Yeah, he wasn't super polished, huh?
Yeah, which I honestly think is kind of there's something about that reads sincere to me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why he thought he needed 15 years and he still was stumbling through his Latin.
Well, because the angel showed up and was like, "Anytime now, man." And he's like, "I'm still learning." And he's like, "Just go."
I love your version of angels. Just go. So he founded his first Catholic church in Saul in Northern Ireland. And it was there that was in that same place towards the end of his life that he retired, and that's where he passed away. And his death was recorded as March 17th, 461. So that's why we celebrate St. Patrick's Day on March 17th.
That was such a long time ago.
461. It's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
The other person that we're talking about is going to be in the 3-somethings. So he's technically older than St. Patrick. So St. Patrick is AD and the other guy is BC.
Is it St. Valentine?
No. I said he's not a
Joan
saint.
of Arc.
Oh, that's right. He's not a saint.
Yeah,
It's Joan of Arc.
It's a boy.
It is a boy. Okay.
A boy's not the opposite of a boy.
Think vocation.
No.
Opposite.
Okay, wait.
Okay.
What's the opposite of a church thing? He owned a gambling den.
No.
He was a pimp.
Barbarian. Some sort of a...
I mean, he did barbaric things.
He was a pagan.
Like a
He was
raider.
a Viking.
Like one of those raiders, the Irish raider himself.
Mm-hmm. He's not in Ireland.
He's not in Ireland. Oh, what's the opposite side of the world from Ireland?
I don't know.
I need a globe
Is it-
stat.
Okay, I'm going to keep going with the St. Patrick stuff.
All right.
So also, fun fact, he was never actually canonized by the Catholic Church. So he was never actually sainted, I think.
Mm-hmm.
During the first millennium, the church had no formal canonization process. So I think that's probably why. And he was most likely proclaimed a saint by popular acclaim. So kind of got it through the back door, I guess. So he was known. So there were some legends about him that were known, but not all of them were true, or there's no actual evidence that any of them happened. So the first most famous one, do you know?
I'm going to say he rid Ireland of snakes.
Yeah, that's the first most famous one, that he drove the snakes into the sea using his shillelagh.
That's never what I called it.
It's a type of cane, yeah.
Yeah. And it's got a big old knobbly knob on
I was
one
talking
end.
about, I was trying to make a joke about my shillelagh.
My shillelagh. So that's what that song's about.
Yeah, but it's about a cane. And the reason, I didn't know, did you know the reason why he drove the snakes out?
Because he hates them?
Okay, I thought snake was like, it was
Poison.
pagans. It was,
I think there's symbolism there, like
Yeah,
he drove
symbolic.
the pagans out. So some of the legends or lore or whatever said that he drove them out with his cane for interrupting his feast. So he drove them out. But
Get out of my feast, you dirty snakes.
But there's no actual, they don't have any actual documentation of that actually happening in any way.
Well, okay.
There's a few of them. Here's another one. This one was my favorite, is that he dueled a druid priest and won.
What did they duel with?
I like to
More
imagine
shillelaghs?
guns, but I don't think they had
406
guns in
or whatever it was.
460.
460.
The another one is that he raised 33 people from the dead, some of whom had been dead for many years.
Many years.
That is...
Like a zombie outbreak is what that is.
Yeah, that's quite the miraculous thing. Not even Jesus did that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they didn't have anything to compare against because Jesus comes later.
Jesus comes later.
Doesn't he?
Then
Before?
Then
I thought he was 0.
Oh, yeah, he is 0.
yeah.
Well, I guess I'm thinking
So
the
you know
second
the
coming.
Catholic Church
It's founded off of
and
that.
the origin of it.
They're like, we're Christians. They're like, what's a Christian?
What's a Christian?
You'll know later.
We'll figure it out. Remember earlier when I was like, I don't read the Bible. Nobody cares about that one. Okay. So, 30...
All right, the opposite side of the world from Ireland, by the way.
Yes.
The Campbell Islands.
Campbell.
Where's
so
that?
he's some kind of soup magnate.
Yeah.
It's right by New Zealand.
Campbell
I mean,
Islands.
I say right by New Zealand. It's probably 800 miles away from New Zealand, but it's the middle of the flippin' ocean.
I will give you a spoiler. He's not from New Zealand. Think ancient hubs.
Ancient hubs.
Ancient hubs.
Yeah.
He was
So
some
like a
kind
big
of
city?
car stealer, thief.
Yes.
Was he from Rome?
Close.
Vienna.
Wait.
Athens?
That was it. You named it.
Wait, Athens,
Athens?
or Vienna?
Athens.
Athens. So he must be Socrates.
Aristotle. Who
I'm
else is
shaking
from...
my head no. Okay, we're gonna finish this and then keep.
Pythagoras.
Pythagoras.
It's not. Okay, we're gonna finish
Yeah.
the other things that
Leonidas.
St. Patrick maybe did or didn't do.
You know, okay.
He prayed for provisions and food for hungry sailors traveling to lands through a desolate area, and a herd of swine miraculously appeared.
Okay. I'm glad there was another part to that, because as
You
you were
just
saying
prayed?
that, I was like, whoop-de-doo.
You're like, I do
Plenty
that
of people
all the
pray.
time. It's believed that he introduced the concept of arches to Irish builders.
It's like,
That is oddly specific.
I know. I was
Like-
like, interesting.
yeah.
I like the idea that they've been building and they're making doorways and they just keep going up and up and up and they're like,
We don't know how to
can't
stop
figure
it."
out how to, our buildings are all 1,000 feet tall. And he's like, guys, hold on, you just tip them over so that they touch at the top there. And they're like, oh my, what do you
would've
call
never-
this thing? It's called an arch. You can call this a Sir Patrick door.
The Sir Patrick door. And then another, and probably most known and the most confirmed true of his
Oh, wow.
is that he used shamrocks in his teaching, where he explained the Holy Trinity represented by the 3 leaves on a shamrock, and the stalk represents the unbeliever.
Wait, the
Right.
unbeliever?
Yeah.
What?
Like
How does that
Satan?
work?
Like
who's
everybody else.
a
Like
person?
we're like humans. Yeah.
What
Wow.
happens when you start believing?
I assume that everybody is fallen in sin, and so you have to still be connected to the Godhead. We're all, no matter how great we are.
Okay.
So that's one thing that, like, they know for sure he did that with the shamrocks.
That's interesting,
Um,
right? Because the shamrock leaves are clearly individual entities, like they're on their own thing. But the Catholic Church has a teaching of the Godhead being one being.
I mean, maybe it's because it's one flower or one
Yeah.
Plant.
Perhaps
plant shoot. I'm not sure.
so. Shoot.
All right, so here's where the colors are interesting, because the typical colors for St. Patrick's Day are
green.
Green.
green. Yes.
And
Wear
gold.
green or you get pinched.
You get punched. Don't tell your nieces and nephews that. Okay, so originally the colors that was associated with St. Patrick was blue, not green.
What a girl.
Huh?
What a girl.
I mean, typically, way back in the day, blue was associated with little girls and pink was associated with boys. So if you were like having a baby shower and it was a boy, they'd all have pink, because pink is a derivative of red, and so that's an aggressive color.
If I were going to have more children, I would do a gender reveal party, but make it like flapper themed or whatever, like 1920s. and then have the wrong color, and everyone would be like, hey, and I'd be like, you guys don't understand history, suckers. It's actually the other thing.
And I would be the only one that knows.
Kelly would know.
Yep. But yeah, it was specifically a light blue. In all older depictions of Saint Patrick, he's wearing shades of blue. At the church that
shades of blue, I just pictured him with
blue sunglasses.
Super cool sunglasses. St. Patrick wearing my shades of blue.
Yeah. I mean, this is terrible, but I'm like, I could never be a time traveler because they would notice me immediately because I could not be outside without sunglasses. And I don't think they had sunglasses, so.
Don't the Eskimos have?
They have those little
slit?
little slit in the bone.
That's you.
Yeah.
You'd have the little slit glasses.
I would teach them all what sunglasses are. I would be the patron saint of sunglasses.
Kelly Boyles introduced sunglasses to the Irish.
Some podcast, hundreds, thousands of years later, would be like, who wouldn't think of sunglasses?
Yeah. Just look out in nature.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. Okay, so in the first church that he dedicated, he's depicted in blue. And this blue color was further reinforced when King Henry VIII declared himself King of Ireland. And to reinforce his kingness, he gave Ireland a coat of arms, which was a golden harp over a blue background. And then the color was further tainted, as it said in much of the research, when in the 1700s. So this stuck for a long time, this blue.
Okay.
Because in the 1700s, King George III created a new order of chivalry. They called it the Order of St. Patrick. And the official color was St. Patrick's blue, which is that light blue. Which the order is not around anymore, by the way. So, in defiance, the Irish rebels latched on to another color, green. They used the shamrock that St. Patrick was known to use in his teachings as a symbol of theirs. And then additionally, in the Great Irish Rebellion, and this is in 1641, Irish military leader Owen Roe O'Neill sailed with a flag that depicted the Irish golden harp, the Irish golden harp on a green background. So this color also could be influenced by the fact that they were called the Emerald Isles, because Ireland is so green. And that rebellion, by the way, didn't go super well. I didn't read a lot about it, but I don't think it went well for them.
They probably got drunk and...
Google the Great Irish Rebellion of 1641 and see how that went out. You guys like
1641?
Googling? Yeah, 1641.
Get on that, Josh.
What are we doing?
1641.
The Great Irish Rebellion of 1641. How'd that turn out?
I was busy reading about Campbell Islands, the antipode of Ireland. But I have bad news, Kelly, for your theory of the opposites. They're uninhabited.
That's the opposite of Irish, which is habited.
Yes, exactly. But how can a person be from there?
Anyways.
It's funny to me that the king is like, I need to be more accepted. So he's using St. Patrick blue and doing this stuff. And then the rebels are like, no, we're going with his teachings green and shamrocky. And like, this guy was a slave you guys captured from somewhere else. Why is he so important to...
I guess. I mean, the Irish flag itself is a symbolism of the peace created between Christianity and... what's that religion that starts with a P?
Paganism? Oh.
You're close. Because the green represents Christianity, the orange represents the Protestants, and the white represents the peace between the two of them. So, I mean,
which part represents paganism?
I think they didn't get a part of
They
the
got turned into snakes and chased off with a shillelagh.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I think, that kind of religious symbolism was a powerful thing.
I just think he must have meant a significant amount, right?
Made a big difference
to the native people because, he was a foreigner and came back and became a symbol for them, really.
Yeah. I watched a video recently that they were talking about Irish people. They were like celebrating St. Patrick's Day, and they were like talking about all their favorite Irish people, and the guy was correcting them because none of them were actually Irish, and that included St. Patrick, and I thought it was very funny. So I guess they're fine with it. So did you read about the Irish Rebellion of 1641?
No, I was still reading about the Campbell Islands.
Okay, well, we're moving on.
Why doesn't anyone live there? I want to move to the Campbell Islands.
You can
Are they up for sale?
It's a nature reserve. So
maybe that's why
probably
nobody
not.
lives there. All right, so then in the late...
Okay, hey guys, you want to hear an amazing story?
Yeah, I do.
So we were talking to this guy with Dad.
Our father?
Yes, our father.
Okay.
Who art.
Who are in Oregon?
Yeah, over there. And we were talking to this guy in Wyoming, and he had a story for every occasion. And somehow scuba diving came up, and we were like, "Yeah, you ever been scuba diving?" He's like, "Yeah, I went scuba diving once." They went to the Great Barrier Reef, and he was like, "We went out there with my instructor, and we all were getting back on the boat, and then we looked out, and the instructor started like." We thought he was like swimming back and forth, but a shark had bit him and was pulling him back and forth. And then the shark killed him and ate him. And I was like, what? Is this a real story? And he's like, and that was my first scuba diving. And I was like, that's the worst possible thing to happen.
That's an awful experience. I wouldn't...
So, anyway. Sorry, continue.
I went scuba diving once.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Actually?
Yeah.
When?
Was it was when I was in high school.
Did somebody eat your instructor?
No, nobody ate my instructor, but
Oh, he sounds so disappointed.
we
He's
were
a real jerk.
Yeah, we were sitting in Taco Bell with like Shane and Adam Barnett, cousin Adam, right?
Uh-huh.
And like his brother, which I'm sorry if you're listening, I don't remember your name.
I'm sure this will get to them.
Yeah, if this makes the podcast. Anyway, so we're sitting in Taco Bell just talking, and somehow it came up, scuba diving, and Adam was like, we have scuba gear. And like, what? Yeah, let's go. Right? So
Does mom and dad know this? Is mom going to learn this for the first time?
I think she maybe knows this already. I'm not afraid to
Definitely,
tell
probably
the
not.
story. Anyway, so we go back to the Barnett estate, right?
Sure.
Which
manor.
is, like
In the
as
woods.
close to Alabama as I've ever been is being on the Barnett estate.
Yeah.
So they literally do have scuba gear, right? And so they start, but they're like, we got to put some air in it. And they had hooked it up to this air compressor, like a big air compressor like Dad had or has in the shop. And they're filling it up, and I'm asking questions about it, what's going on. And so the air compressor is not supposed to go a high enough pressure
Yeah.
to fill a scuba tank, but they had Jimmy rigged it so that the safety was off, so it would pressure higher than it was supposed to. So that was the first thing. And then they're also telling me, you're supposed, like a real one is got some seals in it or whatever so that no oil could get into the water or into the air, because you're really not supposed to get oil in your scuba tank. It could get into your lungs and stuff. And I'm like, okay.
And he's like, we didn't worry about that.
There's no points where you were like, maybe we shouldn't do this?
No. So their property bordered the Willamette River. They're, just outside of town. And so they're like, yeah, we're just going to go. Let's go right into the river. Let's go. And like,
Could
so
you even
it's,
see in there?
so it was like February or March.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So we get in shorts and, we walk out there, and
Did they just duct tape the tank onto you? They didn't.
No, it had straps. It had straps.
Okay.
But to get to the river, because it was this really steep bank, so they had like tied a rope to a tree, and so you could like let yourself down the
Cliff.
this path down to the thing, and yeah, so it's towards the end of winter in Oregon, in the Willamette Valley.
It's
so
muddy.
yeah, it's all this rain runoff in the river. It's just a brown river.
Yeah.
And
That's what I was gonna say. Could you even see anything?
couldn't see a thing. So like I had his flippers on and get in the water, and I'm just like, it's so loud, the air bubbles coming out of the mouthpiece and stuff, and I can't see anything. And then his flipper slips off my foot. And I tried to turn around to like find it, but I couldn't. So and then came back out of the water, and I was like, well, that's enough of that. and we went back up the cliff, and he lost a flipper, and I went scuba diving for like 30 seconds.
Honestly, that's the best outcome
You
I could
had
have possibly had.
Yeah, of that scenario. Oh man, that stressed me out. And I see that you're here, so I know you didn't die. But
Yeah.
I mean,
As you were telling the story, I was just like,
did he live?
yeah, there was some divine intervention.
Yeah. I have no idea how we got there, but I'm going back to circling back. It's the late 1700s.
yeah.
Of Irishmen, underground nationalists. So,
Um,
I'm not sure how we got there.
well,
but we're back.
it's good to be back, Kelly.
We brought it all the way back.
Brought it all
We
the
linked
way
it back
back.
up to the original.
Yeah. So this
Perfectly.
it was in the late 1700s. The Society of United Irishmen, which was an underground nationalist group, they used the color green to symbolize their cause. And to avoid being spotted by the English, a nationalist might wear subtle hints of green, such as a green shamrock or a green feather in your hat. Though the rebels were also crushed, the idea of wearing the shamrock and the color green grew as a nationalist symbol. The English tried to suppress this, but that only made it grow stronger. And the rebellious meaning was penned by an anonymous writer in 1798 in the poem "The Wearin' o' the Green." I'm going to read it to you because it's a paragraph, and it's adorable.
Can you read it with an Irish accent?
I might be able. I don't know if I could. I don't think I can.
Do it.
You can do one try, and then
do one
we'll
try.
circle back around if you don't like it.
What's a phrase I have to say? I have to say my like. Get into the...
They're always after me, Lucky
Oh,
Charms.
they're always after me, Lucky Charms. When law can stop the blades of grass from growing as they grow, and when the leaves in summertime their verdure dare not show, then I will change the color that I wear in caubeen, which is a hat. But until that day, please God, I'll stick to wearing o' the green.
Very good.
That's probably
it's
the
still
worst.
going?
Irish.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, that was it. Okay, I'm gonna read it regular now because
Just in case you don't like it.
Just in
You
case.
nailed it.
If you don't read it, then you're locked in.
Yeah,
That's what I
stay
wanted.
locked in. Remain locked. Don't waver. Believe in yourself.
Believe in your dreams. Okay, we're locking in.
All right, moving on. Kelly is so brave.
It's okay because I can just re-record this and add
Later, you're like,
later if I
all right,
hate
hold
it.
on, guys. Da, da, da. Isn't that great?
And then I go back and
edit us
practice
in.
my Irish for a bit, and I'm just like 1,000 times better.
Just go find an Irish person.
Yeah, I'll have them read it for me.
Did you know the largest wave in the southern hemisphere ever measured was near Campbell Island? 78 feet. That's
I
a
feel like
big
we
wave.
need to get you a shirt or
78
something.
feet is a big wave.
When does it change from a wave to a tsunami?
Whoa. I mean, whoa. Whoa.
I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that symbolically. I'm like quite literally. Is there a distinction?
Listen, one knows when one is a tsunami.
I'm gonna think on that for a while.
Whoa.
Anyways, so as Irish immigrants, okay, so we've got that going. So as
Is
Irish,
that Gaelic you keep doing?
no, that's like I gotta clear the noise out of my mouth. You know,
That's what talking is.
Do you ever get where you're like all the syllables?
Yes,
Voices are coming out of my mouth
I'm just
all the time. I don't believe it.
I know what. I was just joking.
Yeah, I
I
wish it was
wasn't.
Gaelic. You're very. I do that sometimes at school. Like after a long lecture, it's hard. Talking is hard.
No.
Okay, getting back on track. We're almost done with St. Patrick. I promise.
Okay, I
And then
told
you're
you
gonna-
that this would be a single part one.
And then we're gonna get you to making your official guesses. It's not a sex worker.
Is it
It's-
Jack Black?
It's not Jack Black. So here we go. So as Irish immigrants arrived in the U.S., they took these traditions with them. They're like green and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
In places like the U.S., Canada, and Australia, where the newly arrived Irish were regarded with suspicion, and they weren't treated like they should have, it's said that St. Patrick's Day was a form of the Irish people declaring themselves as like, we're here and, we're staying and whatever. And then by the 1930s, wearing green on St. Patrick's Day was so widespread, even Franklin D. Roosevelt joined in. And they did studies. Apparently, 82% of those who celebrate St. Patrick's Day wear green on that day to celebrate it. And though the tradition... See, I can't... It just, helps.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful language.
One of the traditions that did not come from the Irish, however, was...
Kiss me, I'm Irish.
No, I'm sure they'd be fine with that.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. Let us guess. Turning Boston Harbor green.
They also didn't do that one.
Pot of gold. Leprechauns.
No.
The Tooth Fairy.
No. It's leprechaun related.
I love the video of the people who were convinced that there was a leprechaun in the tree. Have you seen that?
No.
What? I gotta show that to you.
Okay, it's leprechaun related. And
Okay.
it's the tradition of pinching anyone that isn't wearing green.
How is that leprechaun
That's leprechaun related?
Yeah, you didn't know that.
I didn't.
So I didn't either. I say that like I'm superior.
You didn't know that, you dummies.
But I also didn't know.
I tell these two idiots about leprechauns.
But the tradition is that you pinch somebody that isn't wearing green if you are wearing green, because green makes you invisible to leprechauns. And so you're pinching them to remind them that they're now visible to leprechauns.
Hold on, but if green makes you invisible to leprechauns,
Yeah.
are leprechauns when they look in a mirror like vampires?
That's what you would think. I also looked this up. Traditionally, Irish leprechauns were depicted wearing red and gold.
What?
Red suits with red hats and gold
Everything
buckles.
I've ever learned from cereal boxes is a lie.
Yeah.
I bet Cheerios doesn't help your heart problems either.
All right. Well, now time for your guesses. Of
All right.
I mean, that's St. Patrick. There we go. Interesting stuff that we kind of take for granted that we don't or do know. Okay.
All right.
Your official guesses. We know that he's from Athens.
Oh, man.
It's
Do I
not
know this
Socrates.
person? Should I be able to name them?
I don't know.
Oh, man.
You're in
Then
the right
definitely
zone.
not. Athena,
No, she's a
Hera, Zeus.
It's an obscure one. So do you want me just to tell
Yeah,
No,
let's...
Oedipus.
Oedipus?
you? No, he's a real person.
Okay.
The Monstar. What is it? Who's the guy with the bull's head?
The
Minotaur?
The Minotaur. Is it the Minotaur?
No.
That's the opposite of a human being.
What about...
Diotima of Mantinea. Ooh, Epicurus.
Epicurus?
Anaxagoras.
Mononymous.
Theophratus. Apollodonus.
Nope.
Beyond...
I am absolutely willing to tell you guys.
Aristo of Ceos.
We'll figure it out. It's gotta be one of these guys.
Hieronymus.
Basileus.
Dionysus.
Apollodonosus.
Oh, it's a D word.
Oh, duty.
No.
Is it
Demetrius.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Dionysos?
Diogenes.
Yeah, Diogenes.
Diogenes.
I knew him. The exact opposite of
Yeah.
St. Patrick. What was Patrick's first name?
Saint?
Diogenes.
Saint. Yeah, was Patrick his first name?
I assumed.
Wait. Is his name St. Patrick? Patrick? Patrick.
What? His last name was Patrick? I mean, I don't know which one it is, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't call him like...
Saint Christopher? Christopher is his last name?
Who's Saint Christopher?
No.
Isn't he the saint of travelers or something?
The patron. You're thinking of Christopher Columbus. That's a different Christopher. I don't think he was sainted.
All right. So Diogenes, here's
Saint
why I say he's the
Christopher.
opposite. Is Diogenes is the philosopher of cynicism.
Ah, he was a cynic.
Yes.
Listen, I don't think it was that opposite. You led us astray.
Yeah, maybe. So, he was a Greek.
He invented cynicism. Just like how St. Patrick invented arches.
Yeah. They say
No
that.
one was ever cynical before him. And then he showed up on the show going like, hey, things aren't as good as y'all say. I invented this.
Saint Christopher, patron saint of travelers.
Oh.
You were right.
I know.
What's his full name?
Christopher.
That's a good question.
St. Patrick's given name was Maywin Sukat?
What?
He adopted Patrick.
What?
I feel like I should have looked that up, but I never bothered. Okay.
You know the song?
Yeah, I know. It's Macklemore.
Yeah. Who is also Irish. Just
right.
like St. Pat. Do you think St. Patrick's last name was Macklemore? Patrick of Macklemore here. Let us spit some bars.
It's because Patrick was his adopted name. There was no first and last.
What? That's not how adoption works.
Well, that's the name he adopted for himself.
Oh, dang.
What?
Who knows what his real name was? Nobody.
I just told you guys.
Oh.
What? Macklemore. Patrick Macklemore.
You even repeated it.
I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
Yes,
I did?
It was Patrick Macklemore.
What was it again?
The second name.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
What?
Suck it. Sakat.
Sakat. S-U-C-C-A-t. Maywin Sakat.
Maywin?
Maywin.
I mean, no wonder he
M-A-E-W-Y-N.
changed it.
Maywin Sakat.
Maywin Sakat. Call me Patrick.
Kind of like how Dick is short for Richard. Man, it's a cat. Patrick's short for that. Okay, so Diogenes. We got to get through this.
We're going to go.
Must sleep.
Here's what's great is this one is very quick because there's a lot that is just sort of we don't know. So, okay, Diogenes, he was a Greek philosopher. It was a Greek philosopher guy.
He was a philosopher.
He was a philosopher.
From the Greek Isles.
He talked about, so he was, it was a Greek philosophical sect that stressed stoic self-sufficiency and a rejection of luxury.
Sure.
So he's credited by some as creating the cynic way of life, but he himself contests that he is not because he's indebted to Antisthenes. So he was, in a number of his writings, he himself indebted a lot of his teachings from Antisthenes. And a lot of his stuff is heavily influenced from being his tutor. He preferred a personal example to convey his philosophical school rather than dissertations or any kind of coherent system of written thought, is what he said. His followers thought of themselves as the watchdogs of morality, which I thought was interesting. So his early life, he was born in around 404 to 413 BC. It's kind of written between those times in Sinope.
Sinope sounds fun.
Yeah, I like it. His father, Icesius.
Icesius the Day.
So his father, Icesius, was a money changer, and he was charged with like defacing or making impure kind of the coinage. So he debased the coinage. And there is a legend that Diogenes asked an oracle how he might gain renown, and the oracle said, adulterate the coinage, which he could have taken as literally debasing the coinage, and thus he was merely doing what the gods wanted, and his exile was part of that. Oh, I forgot to tell you, he got exiled with his father for this crime.
Okay.
And it is also said that he could have made this up so that his exile did not get looked at so poorly. Because they say most likely he just made it up to give himself credence, his actions credence. So because, again, he was implicated with his father, or maybe he just went with his father, it's unsure, but he and his father were exiled. And so it seemed that this exile was an important step in the direction that he took for his philosophical journey. And some surmise that at this time, being separated from your home in Greek, this is like Greek tradition, being separated from your homeland and thus your ancestors, and you couldn't be buried with them, was a huge tragedy. And then, like the idea of having to leave all of that behind, all of your connection to all of that, would be something that would weigh heavily on most people. And so he rejected this attachment and embraced this idea of being free of any kind of attachments. And this is kind of where they say it started.
I can relate.
I feel
to
like
that
you,
idea.
yeah, this is something you would absolutely do. I think the rest you wouldn't when you hear some of the things
Oh,
he does.
well.
I think you'll disagree. So he was exiled and he ends up in Athens. So from there, Athens was a place that was known for welcoming exiled people. They're kind of known for welcoming everybody, apparently. So he remained there for a long time. That is where he encountered his teacher, Antisthenes.
Antisthenes.
Yes. And he devotedly followed him. At first, Antisthenes tried to reject Diogenes, threatening him with his staff, but Diogenes is said...
His
Shillelagh. Yeah.
is said to have responded, "Strike me if you wish, I'll offer you my head, but you'll never find a stick strong enough to drive me away from your discourses."
Man,
So good.
this guy was super into him.
He has a lot of great quips, and a lot that I didn't include because they're dumb.
So when you say a lot of great quips, you mean like...
He just did nothing but quips. He was like quipping all the time. It's quality versus quantity kind of thing. Anyways, but it did wear down Antisthenes, and he accepted him. And then, he continued to learn from him, and then started developing his own kind of school of thought.
What would you do if you were teaching class and one of your students liked it and they graduated, and the next year they came back and they were like, "You must teach me more of the clay ways," and you were like, "No, man, you're in college now," and he was like, "You'll have to beat me with a stick to get rid of me"?
I'd be like, "You're technically trespassing, and if you do not leave, law enforcement will take you."
And he'll be like, "They'll need to hit me with a
The
stick."
biggest stick.
And you're like, they're fine with that.
That's fine.
They have those things with them. They're called
Batons.
nightsticks or whatever.
Billy clubs.
Yeah.
Billy clubs?
Is that? Yeah, I think that's an actual name. I don't know. Anyways, so.
Dad had a Billy club.
Did he?
Yeah, when he was in the reserves.
Oh yeah, I forgot he did that. Anyways. Okay, so he
It's
lived.
a real dad-heavy episode.
Yeah, this is. He lived what I would call eccentric ? In Athens. So, as he kind of built his own philosophy, he was tried to
Can you imagine being thousands of years ago when philosophy was like invented?
thing, yeah.
And you could just be like, "I made my own philosophy," and everyone would just listen to you, and you could be
"So
like,
wise."
"My philosophy is called cynicism. The idea is that everything sucks." And everyone would be like, "Oh man, that's new. That's a hot,
Never heard of
hot
that.
commodity."
Hot take there.
Isn't that sort of still happening though? Like people, influencers and stuff, they just get on a platform and start spouting whatever they think is right.
Here's what
And they
I
have
love.
followers.
Yeah, here's
Yeah,
what I
sure.
love though is a lot of times it's like do you remember this was like a few months ago when there was the like Gen Z challenge that was like try and write your name without lifting your pen off the paper. And there's a bunch of
Like
people
cursive.
that were like, "Congratulations, Gen Z, you discovered cursive." Like we
They invented cursive.
yeah, they like I think the part of is that there's not as much, social media back in the day, so maybe somebody else thought of cynicism, but it didn't really take with them.
So I'm the kind of person that always has lots of ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm always looking for a way to improve things. And what I've found through my life is most of the ideas I've had, somebody already thought of and they failed. So I don't just go like, oh, I got this great idea, I'm going to do that. Or tell other people about it. Usually I go, I got this great idea. Let me Google really quick. Oh, never mind.
It went badly.
That's like the vast
There's
majority.
like a name for that. And I can't remember because like the person that
It's called being a miserable failure and never achieving anything.
Hold on.
There's an actual name for that because the guy that invented the light bulb, there was somebody else that had also invented it, and he made it, or like the telephone
Tesla
or something.
and Edison.
Something, and like one of them made it to the patent office first, but they had both had it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like multiple times where the invention was created like simultaneous something, like it's in two different locations and different people thought of it. So like in college we talked about how this idea of like originality doesn't really exist, but these ideas are coming up, they're happening simultaneously all over the place. It's just like what access you have and like how quickly you can get it marketed or whatever it is. But a lot of ideas, you're not the first one to come up with them, but maybe you're the first one to present it that way, or maybe you present it better than somebody else, and so you kind of, I forget what it's called though.
I don't know.
Well, so what I wanted to pipe in and say was that maybe it's not healthy that you have access to everything that Google can offer, right? Because you have an idea, you look it up and you see that it failed when someone else implemented it, and then so you don't waste any time on it. But what if you implemented it slightly different, or you would approach it differently than they would have? And if you didn't know about the idea's failure, maybe you would have pushed through and made that idea successful. Like
Multiple discovery or simultaneous invention.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe somebody else was doing it, they just weren't doing it as well, or maybe not as dedicated, because he like fully dedicated himself to living this idea, this philosophy that he had. So he didn't
Hold
have
on, I was asleep during the philosophy. What was the philosophy?
So it was cynicism, but the main like idea behind it is I'm gonna have to say this sentence again. It was a philosophical sect that stressed stoic self-sufficiency and the rejection of luxury.
Okay.
And that's cynicism? Mm-hmm. So maybe help me with some definitions, because when I hear cynicism, it sounds like being a cynic.
Yeah, so that's what I also was confused, because I think when we say cynicism, it doesn't feel like what this is talking about.
Yeah.
Well, also, Stoicism is a philosophy. So it's weird to have a philosophy that's like, it's like Stoicism. Like cynicism is when you're stoic. Like,
But I
could have
think-
sworn that was Stoicism.
Yeah, but I think some of the ways that he handles it, I go, that does feel like cynicism. So I wonder if it's an evolution of the use of the word, or the use of the definition. I don't know. But yeah, so he like superlined this. He didn't own a house. He was known to stay in it's described as either like a large rain barrel, which is like a huge vase that like got tipped over. So he's like, there's paintings of him like living in a vase with dogs. And or some records say that it was a tub that got left outside and he like stayed in it during the like nice weather. He had very poor grooming and hygiene because it was unnecessary, and he didn't want to do anything that was unnecessary. He used the toilet and other personal things in public because he said everybody did it, so there was no need to be ashamed. And sometimes he would pee on people that annoyed him.
This is a philosophy I can get behind.
Yeah.
Next time a solicitor comes to the door, I'm going to be
pee on
like,
him.
it's time for some cynicism.
He survived entirely off of gifts of others. He would beg, he would forage, which I thought was kind of funny because the idea of living off the gifts of others means that part of his lifestyle depends on people not living his lifestyle.
Yeah, I was just as you were describing that. I was like, this wouldn't work if everyone adopted it.
Yeah. So the only thing he owned was a staff, a cup, and his robes that he would fold over, and he would unfold and use those robes as a bed. And here's where the cup comes into play. So he has a very famous interaction because
What? Cup?
cup.
Okay.
Do you remember like
the two
2
girls,
hours
one
ago?
cup?
An hour ago, yeah.
When we were talking
Two
about
girls, one cup.
no, we were talking about cupping.
Yeah.
It's when you put your hands together like this.
And so he owned a cup, and there's
He
one
owned
of
a cup.
He really was moving up in the world.
there's a famous story where he was walking by some water and he saw a young boy cupping his hands and drinking from his hands.
He was like, I have invented the cup. Let me introduce it to you, child.
Yeah.
See my invention.
Yeah, and Diogenes reportedly saw this and promptly broke his cup and then said something about like how the kid had beat him in his own like cynicism or something, and that he had owned lavishness that was unnecessary because he had owned his cup. And Plato described Diogenes as Socrates gone mad. And I feel like Plato did not like Diogenes, and this is fun. There was a game that they used to play, apparently. Scholars would get together and they would debate things as like a funsies thing. And Plato, one of the games they would play was describing something in as few words as you could.
Okay.
And one of the things that they were debated frequently is like the definition of man. And Plato had said that the definition of man was a featherless biped. And so Diogenes went out, he found a chicken.
He plucked
He
it.
plucked all its feathers and then threw the chicken at Plato and said, "Behold a man." And I don't think Plato liked it. So he had to adjust his definition of a man. He did other
Poor
kind
chicken.
of famous shenanigans, but one of the other like more famous ones was he was walking through the markets in Athens in the middle of the day, and he had a lit lamp, like walking around looking at people with his lit lamp in the middle of the day. And they were asking him what he was doing, and he famously responded, "I'm looking for an honest man." I was like, okay.
He's so edgy.
Such a cynic.
Yeah.
You know what he would have loved? Hot Topic.
Yeah, if he owned things.
He would have owned a belt with studs on it if he never visited Hot Topic.
Uber.
Yeah.
Also, I just thought that was so funny because, like, that's such an unprompted thing to go do. Like, I've got this
It
idea.
just
Well,
sounds
he's
like,
making a statement.
well, I don't know, man. It sounds like, remember in high school, there's kids that would wear like a long dark trench coat. Before that meant you were trying to kill everybody. But like when it was just like, oh, I'm just a weirdo and I do my own thing. That's what that sounds like to
Yeah.
me.
Well, yeah, it seems like attention-seeking behavior.
Yeah. And he did stuff like that frequently. So that's he has kind of eras, right? So early life, this is this Athens time. So then he's in Corinth, and there's two different versions of how he got to Corinth. So the first is that while he was traveling to Aegina, while he was traveling, he was captured by pirates. He was taken to Crete and sold on the slave market. So this is where it's like St. Patrick. He was bought by Xenides, but it is said that Diogenes told the auctioneers, pointing out Xenides to them, and he said, "Sell me to him, he needs a master." And that's how he got sold to them. And then, Xenides purchased Diogenes.
Is this some kind of like 50 Shades of Grey situation?
No. Yes.
It's all Xenides nuts.
Oh, good one.
Is that my cut it out of the pod joke for the
An
night?
appropriate one. Maybe we'll leave it in. Maybe I'm feeling the edgy.
Can't wait till mom hears that one.
He's got that Diogenes spirit.
Yeah, I really do. He was purchased and then asked to oversee the education of Xenides' son and manage the affairs of the household. And then
Why? I don't understand. Okay, listen. Here's the thing.
I'm listening.
If you purchased a slave, why would you put them in charge of anything?
maybe slave purchasing was very different.
You'd think the slave would dislike you.
You would think.
And if you're like, can you teach my son? They'd be like, sure, I'll teach your son. All the wrong stuff. Yeah.
I'm bleeding, making me the victim.
Yeah.
Your dad will love you the most if you stab him with his knife.
Yeah.
Nah, I think socially, just a different culture.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Super different.
it may, I don't know. At least I'm not living in a tub.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
It was an upgrade for him. He's like, they got so many cups in this house.
The luxury.
I broke my only one.
Yeah. So, and then he took care of the, education of Xenides' son, managed the household affairs. And then Xenides, after seeing how great he did, he set him free. And because he was there, he stayed in Corinth. The other story is that Diogenes was taken prisoner during the Battle of Chaeronea, by Philip II of Macedonia. And Philip II was amused by Diogenes' audacity and decided to release him. So that's kind of the two versions of how he got to and stayed in Corinth.
He really lucked out that people found him charming.
Endearing instead of disgusting.
Yeah. It could have gone terrible for him.
Maybe that's what happened to the other people that invented cynicism. So yeah, there's a couple other famous encounters that I'm going to go over until we get to the end of his life here. Because really, it's more like his life is sort of encounter after encounter versus like this is how he lived. So one of the other famous encounters that he had was in 336. Diogenes attended the Olympics that were being held. When it was announced that one of the fighters, Dioxippus, had defeated another man, Diogenes responded to the crowd, "On the contrary, he defeats slaves while I defeat men." And then people were like, "Whoa." And then they asked him if he was going to be, if he was there to participate in the competition. And he said, they asked if he was there to watch the competition. And he responded that he was there to take part in them, to fight human ills, anger, mistrust, sadness, desire, and fear. And then at the end of the Olympics, he crowned himself the winner of the Olympics and put a wreath on his head. And the Corinthian officials went after him to try and get him to take it off because he wasn't actually the winner of the Olympics. So he created this big hubbub of crowning himself the winner of the Olympics.
I don't think I like this guy.
Yeah, I don't think I like him either, which is surprising because I usually like terrible men, but this one I don't. But this is, I think, one of his probably most famous encounters, and this happened towards the end of his life. So he was lying around in the streets like he did.
Right.
Does.
Like one does.
Like one does. And Alexander the Great came into town, and Diogenes did not participate in any of the fanfare. And Alexander the Great was like, "What? How could he not? Everybody does. I'm Alexander the Great." And so, intrigued by Diogenes' indifference, he decided to go find Diogenes.
He was playing hard to get.
He just found out that this one guy in the city hadn't partied it up when he got in.
Well, Diogenes is a pretty famous figure at this point.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
So
not living on the street in a tub, or
he is living
back
on
to
the street,
tub?
but that's part of his charm.
That's his jam.
So Alexander the Great finds him, and then apparently Alexander the Great was known for his generosity. He says to Diogenes, "Ask of me what thou wilt, and thou shalt have it." And Diogenes responded with, "Stand out of my light," to move out of the sun. Mm-hmm. And everyone was like, "Oh, burn, he's Alexander the Great." And he talked to him like that. And instead of getting mad, Alexander the Great responds, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." To which Diogenes says, "If I were not Diogenes, I would still wish to be Diogenes." And that is towards the end of his life. So The end of his life is highly debated, with 6 possible endings. It's like a choose your own adventure. Yeah, so I outlined the 6 that I could find. So the first, as far as this is how he passed, the first says that he died on the very same day that he saw Alexander the Great. But not a lot of people agree with that one.
I mean, sounds believable. After he throwed so much shade at Alexander, he had him bumped off later.
Maybe.
Send an assassin.
Yeah. Some say that he just simply died of old age in either Corinth or Athens, or maybe even Olympia. And it's just like debated whether he died at like 81 or in his 90s.
That's old.
Yeah. Some say that he died of fever. Another one is that he died of self-asphyxiation as a final demonstration of his commitment to self-determination. It's an option.
That he was just like, I don't need anything, not even air.
That's kind of what this next one feels a little bit like. It says, others say he died eating raw octopus, trying to prove a point that cooking was useless. It's my favorite one.
Yeah.
And then the last was that he was bit by a stray dog while trying to divide an octopus among several dogs, and the bite became infected and he died from the infection.
So everyone was like, listen, an octopus was involved somehow.
Was involved, yeah. Either way, he came to his end, and he had left instructions of how to handle his burial. He requested that he either be left outside in a ditch or left outside the city walls for wild animals to eat, which fits along with his thing, I guess. That is not, however, what people did. The Corinthians erected a monument for him, and then, so these are the 2 options. There's 2 possible things. We're not sure which one was. One was that Corinthians erected a monument for him and arranged a funeral service. The other, second possibility, was that the children of Xenides arranged a funeral for him since he had meant so much to the family.
Yeah.
And that is Diogenes.
Yeah. I think if I lived in that time period, I would be irritated that he got a monument. Because it seems like all his life sounds like just a bunch of being a snotty jerk and a lazy prick that just like feed me on the streets so I can talk about how great I am and don't you wish you were me.
The only thing I could think of, because I was like thinking about this, I was like, he really did live his life like that. Just like didn't own anything, lived in tubs or empty vases and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, it just was a different time, because I don't think there's anybody that would be able to sustain life that way now.
Yeah.
And at least not become famous for it.
I don't know. I just can't abide by it.
So maybe the crime was that art was made of him.
Yeah. That's a crime.
That's the real crime.
That art was made of him.
We awake over there, Josh?
It's time for you to say goodbye.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's over. Sorry. He died.
He died?
Yeah.
He died.
Oh.
Remember? You were awake for the no breathy thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then
And something about an octopus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so here's my take on Diogenes. Not worth it. There were probably cooler people that lived back then.
Yes.
That we could have remembered. And I think the whole thing about Alexander the Great being like, I wish I was Diogenes, is insane.
I literally was like, somebody made that up. That can't be true.
Probably Diogenes.
Yes. He was writing his autobiography. I can't claim to have invented octopodes, but I was the only man brave enough to eat one raw from the ocean. Yeah. Well, I think that was successful.
Let's wrap it up. All right. Thanks. Thanks for coming on this journey. This 2 halves make a whole pod. And as always, go do some art. Don't do any crimes. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
We done?
We're done.
I didn't say goodbye.
Say bye.
Bye.
If you do that, that, I'm going to take it away. You don't get your cocoa.
Not my cocoa.
Glug, glug, glug.
Kelly's secret stash. What do they call you?
Boils.
They call you Ms. Boyles?
Nope.
Or just Boyles?
Boyles.
Just Boyles. The audacity.
I found Boyles' secret stash.
Sometimes they call me Mrs. Boils.
Yeah,
So it's easier to just go by Boils.
yeah, that makes sense.
I'm not Mrs. Boils. That's my mother.
You should have said that's my father. Mrs. Boyles is my father.
father.
You can call me Boyles.